Baruch ata asherah anat malacha ha'olam asher kedishani mitzvotav v'tzivani lehitativ l'tzitzit. Good morning, Savannah. How are you doing? It's really nice to see you today. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. Vahafta et anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיוכך הדברים האלה אשר נוחים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך וחיה כי בהחיו אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם נזכח ליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילאת וברות עצובים אשר לא עשת כערים וזיתים אשר לא נתת והלכת ושבת הישמר לך פן תשכח את יורשך תשכח מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. So what do those words mean? Imagine some of you have a guess. Some of you have heard me say those words before. And some of you are brand new and have never heard such things. What do those words mean? Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Listen, Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, are one. Listen, you who struggles with God. This name Yahweh and that name Eloheinu, Echad, are one. All of the various names of God that we might use, all the various words that we might use to describe what is and what we are, all those words ultimately refer to the same thing at their root. Good morning, Katie. It's been, what, like a week? Maybe 2. It's been too long. I'm glad to see you here today. How are you doing? Good morning, Kate. Hi. Hi. And you shall love Yahweh Eloheinu with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. And these words that I am repeating to you for the 10,000th time today Teach them to your children. And recite them when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night, and when you are traveling and when you are at home. And inscribe them as a symbol on your hand, and let them serve as a sign on your forehead, and carve them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. And when Yahweh Eloheinu brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to assign to you, why is he assigning that land to you? That's the question. Why do you think that you have a divine mandate to occupy the land? Who knows? Well, when you do, when he brings you to great and beautiful cities that you did not build, and houses that you did not fill, and hewn cisterns that you did not hew, and vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and you eat your fill, take heed that you do not forget Yahweh, who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. Remember, we live on occupied land, and that all of the things are one thing. That the evil of the occupation and the good of the olive groves come from their same source. Good morning. Good morning, Tabitha. Good morning, Knox. Good morning, Kate. I need a drink. I'll be right back. How are you all doing today? I did not know you lived in Massachusetts. I suppose I should have known that. Olive sounds like the peaceful ones. Olive symbolism is very large in that part of the world. I remember seeing 100-year-old, maybe even 1,000-year-old olive trees that had been transplanted from the groves in the West Bank into highway medians in Israel proper, to give the sense that those highway medians were millennia old. Two Kates from Massachusetts. I did not know that you were both in the same state. But are you Kate or Katie? Because the way you spell your name makes me say Katie. But maybe I should call you Kate. Oh, there are many people in Israel who feel different, right? There are 10,000 opinions on this issue, right? And really, in many ways, it is not my place to tell anyone what they should think. Land deserves respect. Yes, but it is true that there are stolen olive groves. Like I've witnessed them with my own eyes. I've seen olive trees that have been transplanted into different locations for political purposes. Or personal purposes. And when I see those things, I think about those lines from the book of Deuteronomy, right? Vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, right? Like, by definition, if those olive trees are 500 years old or 1,000 years old, then no one associated with the state of Israel could have planted them. Right? And that doesn't mean that they're not theirs or that they don't deserve them, right? Or that they're not a symbol of heritage, but just quite simply, you did not plant those trees. So when you come into a land where there's trees that you did not plant and you eat your fill, take heed to remember the circumstances that brought you there and the circumstances that might take you away one day. Remember the old times. Remember your roots. Remember where you came from. Repeat. And maybe if you repeat over and over and over, you will understand. At least that's my hope. That's why I say these words all the time, right? No, I don't mean the roots aren't theirs, right? Like, I think ownership is a pretty simple thing. You own something if you have power over it. Like, I don't think that ownership and justice are very related. That is my quinoa. I'm gonna have breakfast with you all today. Yeah. I don't think ownership and justice are very related, right? So if there's something that you have stolen, and the roots are far older than you, and you have power over it, it's yours, rightfully, right? And I don't mean justly, I mean, like, correctly, right? Like you definitely are the one in control, if you are in control. The tree was already there. God made it. Eat from the tree and be grateful. Except, I mean, yes, sure, God made it in some figurative sense, but, like, actually, there were farmers, Ottoman farmers, or pre-Ottoman farmers who planted those trees, right? Your ancestors gave you those trees. Whether you label those ancestors self or other is up to you. That which is, right? And that which is a product of both pain and joy. And how we relate to that pain and how we relate to that joy, how we relate to that theft and how we relate to that righteousness. It's up to us, right? And as much as is possible, I try to relate to all of the pairs of opposites, not just the ones that suit me in a particular political moment or because of my particular personality. I try to recognize that everything that is in this world will also hurt me as much as it blesses me. I mean, that is the word of the prayer, right? Like, God gave you all of these things, and I actually have pretty significant issue with that. Like, I don't think God gave me anything, except maybe a God complex, or a sense of intergenerational trauma. But nonetheless, the things are here, right? And the idea of God, the concept of it, however we choose to define it, is a tool that we can use to relate to the reality that is here. And some of that reality is good, and some of that reality is bad. Anyhow. Let's read an old story, shall we? Good morning, Ashley. It all depends on perspective. Exactly. And what perspective do we want to have? I suppose I'd like to have a perspective that reduces the amount of suffering that I experience. Or maybe I want a perspective that is true. What a paradox. Is it possible to have a perspective that is true? I don't think so. Maybe I'd like a perspective that makes me feel good about myself. I don't know what perspective I want. I wish I could change my perspective on my life. I wish that every day. I wish I could change my perspective on my life and my sense of who I am, so that I was more aligned and more content to be in this body and in this world. Pray for that. So, where we left off in this story of Atrahasis, the gods and goddesses were in the midst of creating a new kind of person, a human. Right? And why were they creating this new kind of person? Well, because there was a war. The Anunnaki had enslaved the Igigi, and the Igigi rebelled. And they said, we don't want to be taking out the riverbeds of the Tigris and Euphrates. We've been doing this for 3,600 years. We're done. And so they surround the house of Enlil. They say, we're done. And Enlil says, let me confer with my other god friends. And they confer, and they say, you know what we should do? We should make another lower class. We should make humans. And then we go into this very interesting, visually beautiful sequence where the midwife goddesses are called upon, and they make mankind out of bricks and reeds, right? These were the building materials that were available to the ancient marsh people in what is now southern Iraq. Bricks and reeds. Set out the mud brick. I was the one who created, my hands, the ones which made. The midwife will be joyous in the nursing priestess's house. Right? So we will continue to learn about the creation of humankind from mud and water and reeds. How do you differentiate truth from lies? I don't know. I wish I knew, Knox. How do you differentiate truth from lies, right? Because even the definition of those things... Even the definition of those things, what is truth, what is a lie, right? They're subjective, they're contingent on one another. Good morning, Sarah. How are you? Thanks for being on the lookout. I think everyone here is pretty positive, thankfully, right? That's the advantage of having a very tiny audience, is the trolls, they shrink. But I'm glad you're here, Sarah. What are you up to today? Yes, Nox, you may have missed a part, right? Like, it's difficult to be here for every single stream. That's why I try to give a summary of what's happening, right? So, we're at the part where mankind is getting created. So, Let's read. I was the one who created. My hands, the ones which made. The midwife will be joyous in the nursing priestess's house, anywhere a woman gives birth, and the mother is separated. Then there shall be the mud brick to be placed fully for 9 days, and the womb goddess Nintu shall receive her due honors, and she will utter the name of their undying mother, Mami, and likewise she will speak the name of the womb goddess, and spread out a cloth of linen when the house bed is made. The wife and the husband will select for each other partners, and Ishtar will select for they won't select for each other partners. They will select each other for partners. This is monogamy here, not non-monogamy. I'm glad you're doing well, Sarah. It's okay for you to ask a lot of questions. I appreciate that, Nox. So, this is certainly not Christian, it's pre-Christian. There are things in this story this story that presage some themes in Christianity, but by no means is this Christian. Spiritual is a word that I avoid, because I think it is so bland as to be meaningless. It's like saying that these potato chips are natural, right? Flavored with natural flavors. Right, like, it's a ritual, right? And by ritual, I mean a repetition. These words are old. They come from traditions that are much older than anything that we see on the world today, certainly in the English-speaking world. And I try to remind myself what life was like for these old people, because I think there's some insight to be gained about how to live my life today. Right, so I pick and choose from a number of different traditions. This particular story is called Atrahasis. It's from a collection from ancient Mesopotamia. It's about 4,000 years old, and it's the flood myth. We haven't gotten to the flood yet. First we have to create humans before we can flood them out. But Atrahasis is Noah. So we will get to Atrahasis soon, in about a week or so. Anyhow. The wife and the husband will select each other for partners, and Ishtar will be gladdened by the wedding of man and wife, where it will take place within the dwelling of the father-in-law, and there shall be celebrations which last for fully 9 days, where they will call upon Princess Ishtar by the name Ishara. Then, on the 15th day, as has been determined by destiny, she will call the bride and the groom together to the bridal bed. The man and the wife will then live together, bound to one another, and shall carry out the work for their existence, acting in virtue, never straying from the honorable, bringing the gifts of gods, to live according to the ways established for them by the gods, to live free from adulterous acts, or satisfying homosexuality. But homosexuality is just so satisfying. Right, so this is, these stories, they establish social norms, right? The book is called Atrahasis. Right, so we have in these stories the establishment of the state, the construction of rituals, right, like in the earlier story in the Numa Elish, we saw like the very beginning statements of astrology, and all of these different sort of things, right? These are very old stories that give us a sense of social order. So in this one, the man and the wife are commanded to live free from adulterous acts or satisfying homosexuality. At least they acknowledge that homosexuality is very satisfying. To live free from shameful acts, or what brings hands to guilt. Do not attain your wealth unduly, but gain by upright means. Be satisfied with your own things, and do not take from others. Do not engage in deceit, but declare all truthfully and honestly. Above all, honor the gods. After them, honor your parents. Perform labors so you can manage through your own efforts, because the one who is idle makes his livelihood from stealing. Learning a skill gives a man his living. The slothful go hungry. Do not find yourself eating what another man has left behind. Everything in this story is just not what I'm doing. I love eating what other men leave behind. Good morning, Paige. How are you doing this morning? Do not find yourself eating what another man has left behind in his dumpster. Rather, obtain your food properly from the fruit of your labors. But if he fails to acquire a skill, in its place he must ply the hoe. There is no shortage of work for one who is agreeable to labor. Become a marine merchant if wishing to sail. The seas are vast. If you prefer to plow cultivatable land, the countryside is wide. Nothing worthwhile comes without toil, for men or for gods. Likewise, through work one enlarges his own righteousness. So this story, right, like again, the narrative arc of the story, like when we were earlier, we had the Igigi and the Anunnaki, and they were negotiating. And the Igigi were saying, we are toiling too much. And the Anunnaki says, okay, let's make another kind of being, a human, and the humans can toil. And so we have this sequence about how humans are made from mud and straw, and then how they get married and procreate, and finally, in the concluding, right, it is your duty to work, say the gods. You must toil. You must cultivate the land or become a merchant on the seas. Whatever it is, you must work. You must labor. And certainly, don't eat out of dumpsters. And don't do any of those homosexual things. It's not very good at all. And with that, we will conclude our reading for the day and move on to other prayers. And tomorrow we will continue to learn about the ancient flood myth. I'm doing well, Paige. It's nice to see you 2 days in a row. So, now we will move on to Arati. The word Arati, of course, means light or flame in Sanskrit. And here we have our little flame. Thank you. Love from Greece. Here's some love back from the east coast of North America. So, the word Arati means light or flame. And as we repeat the names of these gods, we can remember the things that connect us. We're all made of light. We're all made of flame. Some metaphorical level. I like metaphors. So, Arati goes like this. Jaya Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Arati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Arati Venkanta Ramana Venkanta Ramana Sankatarana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Arati Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi and Mahasaraswati Mahakali and Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Arati Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Arati Dattatreya Dattatreya Trimurti Avatara Jaya Jaya Arati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sanistaraya Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Sankarachaya Advaita Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Arati Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Arati Ayapa Samine Ayapa Samine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Arati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala. Thank you, Paige. Natatra Suyobati Natandra Karatam Limavdiobati Kutoria Magni Twamivantam Mandi Sarvam Tasya Basya Samidam Vivanti Om Gange Kaimane Kaiva Govari Saraswati Narmade Sri Kaveri Hiya Namastitam Namo Namaha. Twameva Mata Chapita Twameva Twameva Bandusha Saka Twameva Vidya Dravinam Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Kayena Vacha Manasindriyarva Budyat Manava Prakrite Sabhavad Karomi Adyad Mangalam Parasmahi Narayana Iti Sarmar Payami Savadamam Pravichayam Mamikam Savanam Raja Aham Svasarva Papayo Mokshayami Masucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these things I dedicate to you. Thank you so much for being here today. Now we will conclude with Kaddish, prayer of mourning, and then briefly I will eat with you. I do have a meeting at 10 a.m., so in 12 minutes I have to go, but we can spend these next 12 minutes together. We'll say Kaddish, and then we'll have a little snack. Right, so Kaddish is a prayer of mourning, a prayer of grieving, and what was I saying earlier today, right? Like, constantly praying to be more aligned with the reality that I'm in, to accept myself for who I am. Right? And I think that is also letting go of perceptions of myself which are untrue, or unachievable, right? So we say Kaddish to grieve, to mourn, to release our attachments to things that are no longer serving us, and to allow the dead to be dead, and allow the living to move on, as we do, into the next generation. So we will say Kaddish. If there's anything that you are grieving, anything that you're mourning, feel free to put it in the chat, and we can grieve those things together. Yid Gadal, Yid Gadash, Shema Rabba. Bialma Divrach Yote, Viam Lichmal, Chote, Bechayachon, Vyamechon, Vchayed Kolbe Israel, Bagalav, Isman Kari, Vyamru. Amen. Yehe Shemei Rabba Mivarach Lialam Omei Omaya Yitbarach Vishtabach Vitbar Vitrman Vitnase Vitadar Vitale Vitalal Shemei de Kudisha Baruchu Leila Min Kolber Chatavish Irata Tushbechata Venechimata Demiran Biama Vimru. Amen. Yehe Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya Vichaim Alinu Viachol Yisrael Vimru. Amen. O Se Shalom Bimramav Huya Ase Shalom Alinu Viachol Yisrael Vimru. Amen. Oh, say shalom bimramav, Oy, say shalom aleinu, v'alechol Yisrael, v'yemru, amen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you here tomorrow to say these words again. And now it's time to eat breakfast. If I can take off the prayer shawl. I'm gonna go get some quinoa. I'll be right back. Good morning, Salty Bish. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty good today. I have some academic meetings. In 9 minutes I've got to go, but I've got 9 minutes to spend here with you. How was your day? What did you get up to? Imagine it's dark out. You're in bed. Okay, I'll be right back with some grains. Chug some water alongside me. Yes, please. Oh my god, you just gave birth? Wow. I didn't know that you were expecting another one. That's exciting. I bet you've been very busy. Congratulations, Coffee Bish. Congratulations, my friend. How is she doing? Hungry and crying? Pleased to be in the world? Pregnancy went on forever. 9 months, I'm sure. And labor went smoothly? That's so exciting. I'm really happy for you. This is your second, right? I bet. Is she sleeping now? Third. Gosh. Had to feed and put herself to sleep, so that was nice. 7 days in the world. Gosh. And how old are your other two? They're both fairly young, right? You had them fairly close to one another? The reason I keep seaweed in my room is because it's something green that is shelf stable. Like, I like to have a little bit of fiber, I suppose. If I could have fresh greens in my bedroom, I would, but instead we have this processed stuff, but it's not bad. It's quite good. Gosh, 3 kids. Still that freshly newborn stage. It's the calm before the storm. Your eldest is 8. Four years apart. That's really cool. I'm really happy for you. Mr. Jacob Toe, you are so weird. You're so weird. Am I expecting a long meeting? No, I'm meeting with some librarians and one of my students about the storage of the herbarium that we made last summer. It's going to be stored in the library, so that's nice and rather bureaucratic to get it in the right place. But that meeting should only be maybe half an hour or 45 minutes. Thank you. Mr. Jacob Toe, you have missed the context. Your question is incorrect. Poorly framed. And then I have another meeting with an academic advisor, and he's going to help me put together my thesis. And then I'm going to start writing my thesis. And actually, I should get ready to go. What's my onlook on time? That there's not enough of it. I have to leave in 3 minutes. No, Mr. Jacob Toe, you cannot be a moderator. You're a troll. I have to go. Knox, we can philosophize about time another time. So TikTok just unveiled this subscription feature. There's probably a link somewhere on your... Yes, you can subscribe. Yeah, so if you like what we do here in the mornings, please do consider subscribing either on TikTok or on Patreon. So Paige, you asked me yesterday which one I prefer, and I looked into it, and Patreon is just much better. It's a much better deal. TikTok takes like 2/3 of your subscription fee. And also I couldn't figure out how to actually withdraw payouts. It's very obscure. TikTok is like not my friend. Like, I'm here and I'm glad that the platform connects me to you. But yes, if you would like to subscribe to support this channel and what we do here, Patreon is typically a better way. But you can also subscribe on TikTok if you want to have that fluid one-click experience. There's also tips on my profile page, or there's a link to one-time tips in my bio. Right, there's lots of ways to support the channel, and I feel like a snake oil salesman giving you this spiel right before I leave, but I think I have to. So, yes, you're the troll that hides at the bottom of the dumpster. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Salty Bish. Have a good night. I hope your daughter sleeps well and she doesn't wake you up in the middle of the night hungry. Although, almost certainly she will, right? That's what newborns do. But thank you for popping in and giving me that update. That's made me really happy. Yes, so I'm gonna go, but I will be here tomorrow to say these words once more. Yeah, thanks so much. Do consider subscribing if you like. Farewell.